You know what? These games are fantastic, but they don't really respect your time. They have a lot of side quests or too much dialogue, open world features, huge spikes, lots of backtracking, they're too long, or especially involve a lot of grinding. So instead, today I'll show you 10 great JRPGs that do respect your time. So let's begin! Number 10. Lost Sphere. Man, this list was so hard to do because nearly every JRPG in existence includes at least one feature I mentioned during the intro. Ironically, that's what makes them so great, right? Well, not having any of those features is also ironically what makes RPGs like Lost Sphere so great. You play as a group of friends who are trying to restore cities and areas lost to the mist, so you will travel around in small overworlds, reasonably sized dungeons, no random encounters, and not too big cities. In fact, there's only one big city in the whole game, and yes, sure, you'll be returning to it a lot, but it just doesn't feel like it wastes your time. Combat might take a bit though, not because it's turn-based, but because it depends on planning the trajectory of their moves and attacks. Thankfully, the large majority of regular battles can be done quickly if you just select normal attacks and let the characters move by themselves. This game doesn't waste your time with too many side quests either. There's a bunch that are meaningless, but you can just ignore them. It's also not a difficult one, so the grinding involved is close to zero. It isn't easy, but it isn't hard either, unlike the other RPGs from these devs, I Am Setsuna and Oninaki, which can get ridiculous at times. Give Lost Sphere a chance if you're looking for a solid, balanced, and also short adventure on PS4 or Switch. Number 9. Scarlet Nexus. You know what also disrespects your time? RPGs with true ending requirements. Some, for example, ask you to beat the game with both protagonists. Scarlet Nexus has 2 of those, and you can play the story with either. Different events happen in this apocalyptic science fiction setting where you play as a group of agents with special telekinesis powers. It's a relief that you don't have to beat the game with both to get a good ending. Scarlet Nexus sends your team to either a big city or a small base of operations, and that's it. Any other exploration takes place inside the different dungeons, but for most, you don't even have to find your way to them. The game takes you there so you can start your missions as if they were stages. Some of them are long and there's a lot of monsters around, but since this game has a really fun battle system, you won't feel like it's wasting your time. The fun thing about it is to use your telekinetic powers to grab objects and throw them at your enemies, and every character has different abilities you can use to your advantage against those very same enemies. I won't deny that it can feel somewhat repetitive at times, plus it's a challenging one, so you'll have to try a few times to beat certain bosses, but grinding? Not really, since it's more about how you fight than how strong your characters are. I don't know, I never felt like this game didn't care for my time, as it was pleasantly designed to respect it as much as it can. Number 8. Langrisser 1 and 2 Remakes. These two follow different storylines that are only connected by many years of difference. They both revolve around the hero in an attempt to unify the continent. Both have many different routes and endings, but thankfully, you can just stick to one, beat it, and move on if you want to. Nothing forces you to do anything else. Langrisser 1 can be completed this way in just 10 hours, while the second one will probably take you around 15. It's up to you if you want to revisit previous decision points to unlock those new routes or endings. That's why these two, unlike many tactical RPGs out there, respect your time a lot. The best thing about these two remakes is that they fixed everything wrong with the original ones on the Mega Drive. Those were tough as nails with stupidly long maps. Each one took forever to complete. In these new versions, rebalanced difficulty has been added. Maps can be done quickly, but you still get enough satisfaction out of them. Fast forward features help a lot to decrease the time you'll spend fighting, and these animations can be skipped if you want to. You wish more strategy RPGs were like this, don't you? I don't mind if they're grindy or long, since I'm a big fan of the genre, but the point is that Langrisser 1 and 2 remakes respect your time well, thanks to all their new features. Number 7. Tales of the Abyss. Many Tales games have a few of the red flags I mentioned during the intro. Some can be stupidly hard and grindy, others stupidly long, or others, I don't know, stupidly outdated. Abyss aged decently. It doesn't have random encounters, difficulty is alright, it might get slightly more challenging than normal here and there, but that's about it. Grinding is almost entirely optional, but you may have to do a few extra battles here and there, nothing too bothersome. The one thing you might complain about is the dialogue, since the Tales games are known for focusing too much on character development, but that's a Tales game for you. Besides, it's not a Trails game or a Persona game. The amount of talking in those put any Tales game to shame, man. You probably already know the plot's about Luke and Tyr getting transported to a faraway place, so they need to find their way back, but like in any Tales game, story just keeps on jumping from one thing to another until the plot ends up being about something completely different than before. However, that's the magic of this series, and this particular title on PS2 and 3DS is one of the most balanced, which means it respects your time pretty well. There's even a better Tales game that respects it even more, but we'll get to that later. Number 6. Vandal Hearts. This is about a group of soldiers from a security forces unit that find out a bit too much on the political side. That's when their troubles begin, which makes them start going solo to end the farce. Now, strategy RPGs have a tendency to use up a lot of your time. Most of them are very challenging, therefore very grindy. And let's not forget how long some of their maps can be. Fire Emblem, I'm looking at you. Valkyria Chronicles, anybody? That's just not the case with Vandal Hearts. Sure, it's hard, but most of its difficulty comes from trying to figure out how to approach every situation. I say this because in every single mission you need to do something different or something specific. That alleviates the repetitive nature games of this genre are usually known for. It isn't tedious and it excites you to the point of finding out what the best course of action is. Trust me, this game just never gets old. You can grind, sure, but like I said, it will barely be necessary no matter what you do though. This is a short game that can be beaten in less than 20 hours. Unlike many strategy RPGs that take forever to complete, Vandal Hearts goes straight to the point like no other and totally respects your time. It's not exclusive to the PS1 by the way, it's digital on PS3 and PS Vita too. Number 5. Eternal Sonata. I think some of you will disagree with this game being here. Before that, let me explain. First and foremost, this is a game with 3 different protagonists, 2 separate groups, but the entire plot revolves around Frédéric Chopin, the composer himself, convinced he's living in a dream in a fantasy world. Now, let me tell you why this game respects your time despite popular beliefs. No random encounters, areas have a balanced length like the dungeons, with no nerve-wracking puzzles. The variety of places you visit are carefully designed to please your eyes with beautiful visuals, but also with reasonable exploration. I never felt like the game was wasting my time with anything exploration-wise. The story progression isn't told through nonsensical amounts of dialogue, even keeping its humor to a minimum, and most of it is told via voiced cutscenes which aren't usually long. Finally, the combat is so addictive and original that you won't even feel overwhelmed with the regular monsters. And it's not like the battles take forever to complete if you just learn the basics. Exploiting the game's combat mechanics is easy, but people say the difficulty spikes are a waste of their time. There's one in particular that's infamous. So yeah, okay, I admit you're gonna have to grind a bit, but it's not like you'll do this over and over again. If you learn how to fight in battle, which isn't complicated whatsoever, you'll be fine most of the game. If not, then grab the Xbox 360 version, which is much easier. Number 4. Tales of Exilia. Exilia is, in my opinion, the poster child of a JRPG that respects your time. Jude meets the mysterious Mila, who claims to be the Lord of the Spirits. Together they start a journey to restore order, lost due to both spiritual and technological complications. And okay, like I said before, Tales games do have a tendency to have an above average amount of dialogue, but it's mostly told through voiced cutscenes. that greatly reduces the amount of reading so it doesn't feel too tiresome. But I picked Exilia over some of my favorites like Berseria and Legendia for simple reasons. Berseria does go overboard with cutscenes and dialogue, apart from having combat mechanics that are hard to master. Legendia is just too long, with the player revisiting areas with random encounters, and well, it's quite a challenging game. Grinding is necessary. Not in Exilia. It's a perfectly balanced game. It's thankfully one of those which difficulty progresses smoothly till the end. I felt grinding was at its bare minimum, or you know what, you can just kill any monster that comes across you and that's it. Combat is amazing since it's easy to understand. It helps a lot that you can pair up with an ally for assist actions or more combos. I don't think you'll have trouble with Exilia. It's perfect as an intro to the series, and guess what? Stick to the main story and it's over in 20 hours, that's rare in a Tales game. The same cannot be said about its masterful sequel, since it's way more challenging, longer, and you have a debt to repay during the first several hours of the game. Number 3, the Dealfield Chronicle. This is the last tactical RPG on the list, and it's here for one big enough reason. It's a real-time strategy RPG, not the type where you move on grids and fight in turns. In here, you control up to 4 characters per mission, but they all belong to the same mercenary group. Some are story-scripted characters, others join via side quests. How this game respects your time is very interesting. In fact, I think the developers had precisely that in mind when they made it. You see, all you do is give your characters orders and directions during every map, but each map isn't long at all. It's short, and it's more about the intense fighting occurring during it, or how to complete it, than wasting your time with over an hour of fighting till you reach the boss. Nearly every single mission in this game takes about 5 minutes to complete, and they even reward you if it takes you less. They didn't need to go overboard with long-ass maps, permadeath, and cheap game overs near the end. Developer Studio Loncarse did a fantastic job engaging the players with short missions instead that feel satisfactory and rewarding every time. I did all side quests here, all of them, because they never felt meaningless. They all have something to offer story-wise, and some even gave me some new characters to join. Besides, it isn't hard. It's perfectly balanced and friendly even to beginners and veterans alike. Finally, dialogue is very rarely long or tedious. They get to the point with their storytelling, excluding comedy and rendering slice of life to a bare minimum. That's why this is a must-play JRPG that definitely respects your time. Number 2 is 9, Monstrum Nox. At this point you're gonna ask, why 9? Because I feel it's the one Ys game that respects your time the most. 8 is a masterpiece, sure, but it's got some open world features, areas that take longer to complete, and I just felt it was way more challenging. Previous Ys games have similar characteristics, or are just way too grindy and difficult. Ys 9 is amongst the easiest of them all, but that doesn't mean it's a walk in the park. Combat is just as great as always, fast-paced, with the ability to switch between 2 more active party members. You do this in order to exploit enemy weaknesses, since they're often weak to one specific character and strong against another. But even with that in mind, Ys 9 is still quite balanced, again on the easy side, even on normal mode. But it's also a masterpiece that respects your time, because most of the game takes place in a city that you can explore at your own pace. You can look around and even fight short battles through chaos portals for rewards, side quests, or to advance the story. It will surprise you to know that I did almost every single side quest in this game. Why? Because most of them didn't feel like meaningless fetch quests. However, it was mostly because none of them made me feel like I wasted my time, and the prison missions with the other adult were just fine. Puzzles were rarely annoying and perfectly designed to entertain you instead of just bore you with tedium. That's why this is the one Ys game in the series that, in my opinion, respects your time the most. Number 1. Odin Sphere, Lifthrasir. The first place gotta go this time to Vanillaware's masterpiece. Nonetheless, I need to clarify it belongs only to its remaster. Original PS2 version was too freaking hard, and you often felt like the game was disrespecting your time because you were dying too much, or getting your character tired too fast, or grinding a lot to survive, even on easy mode. The remaster on PS3, PS4 and PS Vita fixed all of that. Now you can fight till your heart's content without constantly having to worry about that power bar up there. It's also being rebalanced, so its relentless enemies and mid bosses are nowhere near as cheap as in the PS2 version. Finally, if you die too much, it's because you haven't been stopping here and there to eat food to gain experience and level up. That's right, there's barely any need to grind here since most of the XP comes from buying food or mixing items to create dishes. You may feel like the game isn't respecting your time with this particular feature, but I found it really fun to exploit with whatever food or dishes I could get. What I mean to say is that I never felt like this was a waste of my time, but I get it. Getting experience from fighting monsters or bosses is faster and better. Well, you do level up with that too, so there's nothing to worry about. Play through 5 different protagonists, completing each arc in 5 to 7 hours, and you're done. It's off to each one's final boss. Maybe you'll need to level up a bit for those, but remember, the game's being rebalanced to avoid needless hours of grinding. A great JRPG that perfectly respects your time. So those were 10 JRPGs that respect your time. Any others you'd like to mention? Do that in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!